Hi, I'm Karen Cash and I'm CEO of Tech Alpharetta. Welcome to our podcast series, Driving Innovation, where we explore the people and companies that are driving innovation in the city of Alpharetta. And we have with us here today Faisal Siddiqui. I may not have said your last name properly. If I didn't, excuse me. Founder and CEO of Park Avenue Gaming, headquartered here in the city of Alpharetta. Faisal, welcome.
Thank you, Karen. Good to be here. You got the name right, Faisal Siddiqui. Okay. Although, depending on which country we're in, sometimes it's Faisal or Faisal or Faifal, whatever. You're fine.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us here today. And, I see Park Avenue Gaming and you as perfect examples of startup success stories, clearly, and for you, a serial entrepreneur and really a transformative leader. So there's a lot of good topics to explore here today, and I'd love to kick this off by just first hearing a little bit about your background and what led you to start Park Avenue Gaming.
Sure, thanks. Oddly enough, I'm one of the few people in the world that actually grew up in Las Vegas, Nevada, that is, not New Mexico or something else.
Right,
and so.
Right.
I guess that kind of is the basis for where we are today, in the sense that we grew up in the hub of gaming or gambling, if you will, right?
Right.
So, but at a very early age, I guess I was always an entrepreneur. At the I think it was, junior year of high school or something like that, I was selling donuts and coffee in the morning.
So you were ready.
It's just
had the traits.
It was in the blood, if you will, right? So. But anyway, I went to school at UNLV. I got my bachelor's in computer science. I wrote code for a living for gaming businesses, if you will.
Okay.
And then I went and got my MBA through that process as well, and moved from one company to the next. One of the things that I did early on was I was the first VP of IT for Global Cash Access, which today is called Every. It's a few billion-dollar public company. Sure. I was there through the beginnings of it going IPO. And so that was interesting.
Yeah, what
and then one of the other things I did, which if you've ever watched the Travel Channel or the Discovery Channel and they talk about facial recognition in casinos,
right,
where they're trying to capture cheaters, I was actually the lead developer on that piece of software in the early 90s, where we were integrated into a casino surveillance camera, taking pictures of people and running them through FBI, CODIS, and other databases to capture criminals, if you will.
Wow, that's fascinating. So you were in there at the very beginning of the development of that technology.
Yeah, so I was a techie, if you will. I wrote code for 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I loved it. It was great. But I learned early on at that time, though, that I wasn't ever going to be a great coder, because great coders they're like artists. Mm-hmm. They're super special people, yeah? And I wasn't one of those. But I had a knack for understanding business along with it.
Yeah.
And so it moved me quickly to the business side. And so I was a CIO, a CTO. I took a couple of companies public for other people. And then in the about 12 years ago, there was an idea out there in the world called social casinos, which are like mafia wars, and you think about things like that where you can do microtransactions.
Okay.
And there was an opportunity for people to then do slot machines or play online games through Facebook, Apple, Google.
Sure.
And that was our first startup. We had come up with an idea to do a loyalty program in that space, so that even though you were spending money with Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Google, you weren't getting anything back, but you were earning points like you do with an Amex card, if you will. And so those points translated into real-world tangible rewards.
Okay.
So that was an interesting idea. We turned that into a B2B business.
Right.
And then we got an opportunity. Somebody called us and said, hey, we've got this thing going on in Mexico. Will you come take a look at it? And so this is end of 2017, somewhere around that time.
Okay.
And we went to Mexico.
Where at that time? Still in Nevada?
No, we were in Miami at this point, and we had started the first company in the social business in Palo Alto.
Okay.
In fact, that's a super side note for you.
Yeah.
So our office, we still have it, is in this little incubator there, which is in Palo Alto next to the North Face building. In that same building, there's a lady named Jeannie Labordi who owns it. She's done 29 companies incubated there, and one of those was Nest. You've heard of that?
It only takes one.
Small little company, right?
Yeah, I've heard of
that.
So
we still have a desk in that same incubator today. But no, we were living in Miami, and we were looking at this thing in Mexico, and then another person called and said, hey, can you look at this thing in the Dominican? Can you look at this here? And what we realized is we were getting calls to do lottery systems in these emerging markets. And at that time, and even in today, there are two major companies in the world that have 95% of the lottery market.
Sure.
And we looked at these emerging markets and said, if we do a mobile first approach there to lottery and lottery systems and lottery management even, because most everything is done on a desktop. If we
Right.
take a mobile first approach, maybe we can do something different in these emerging markets.
What a tremendous opportunity.
And that was the genesis of Park Avenue Gaming as it was then.
Right.
And then the long road to today, which, you know, you say we're successful, I say we still have a long ways to go.
Right.
But it's been an up and down road, right? In the sense of we operate in these emerging markets, which are sometimes difficult to navigate. And then you've got a coronavirus worldwide pandemic, which is
Right.
different in every country along the way.
Yeah,
And
that
so-
throws a challenge out there. When
Yeah,
you're
so as a
working
startup
internationally.
founder, right, raising money, operating things, doing things, trying to get things moving, what a roller coaster ride.
I can imagine.
I'm not quite sure if we're at the success place, but we're getting there.
So you started, Park Avenue Gaming was what, 2018?
Yeah, March of 2018. So we're just over 3 years old.
Okay.
We're babies.
Yeah, yeah, and all of your clients are obviously international, outside of the United States,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so are your customers really the governments of those
They are,
countries then?
yeah. So because we're a lottery systems company and lottery management company,
Right.
when done properly, lotteries are run by states, like they are in the United States, or governments,
Yes.
because the purpose of lottery was always to give it back to the people, actually.
Right.
In fact, oddly enough, the first lottery in the United States was called the Mountain Road Lottery, and there are tickets out there, original tickets signed by George Washington, because they needed
Really?
to build a road through a mountain. And so to raise the money, they sold lottery tickets
So that was the first known lottery in the United
US.
States.
That's right.
Oh, that's fascinating.
So it's always, so we really got into lottery because we were in the casino side of the business and the traditional gambling side. And the thing that with lottery we found is whatever we do has a charitable component back to the people.
Okay.
Yeah, very similar to like the Georgia Hope Scholarship, which is
Right.
funded by the Georgia Lottery. Similar to that concept.
Okay. And so in working with the governments of foreign countries then, is it challenging to have to get up to speed on the different regulations and laws that each different country must have, the regulations regarding lotteries and how they can be operated?
Regulations, laws, and culture even.
Sure.
Yeah, people
Yeah.
operate and maneuver differently. So what's important in one country is not necessarily important in another. Politics get into play because governments change a little bit more often and there's some more volatility there. But the compliance standpoint is very challenging sometimes, yeah?
Yeah.
Especially being a US-based company. On the one hand, that makes things very difficult for us because we have to be aware of anti-money laundering issues, corruption issues. There's a Foreign Corruption Practices
course.
Act. So many things that we have to be aware of operating in these countries, whereas some other companies based in other countries, not in the U.S., they can skirt those issues, right?
Right.
So to some extent, that's difficult for us. At the same time, the fact that we have to do that gives us a sense of, provides the governments a sense of legitimacy of the operation that they wouldn't otherwise get because we have to be such to the letter of the law.
Yeah.
So there isn't
that's
any,
interesting.
so there's less thought of corruption or, nefarious activity and rigging the game or something like that.
Right, right. So in the countries in which you are operating, and they're Latin American countries?
Mostly, yeah. We've
Yeah.
got some operation that we've developed in some Asian countries as well. So we've been in the Philippines and a
Okay.
few other places. And so we're staying in the emerging markets, if you will. But LATAM is
right.
a significant part of what we're doing.
Okay, and so do you have people on the ground in those different countries that are part of of your own company
We
that
do.
help you deal with the compliance and regulations and the
Yeah,
local politics?
and actually country managers, if you will, right? So
Okay.
we have staff that help the state governments operate. So we're an augment to each entity, if you will,
I
that we
see.
participate in.
Right.
So we have corporate offices in Mexico City across from the U.S. Embassy. We have a big corporate office in Buenos Aires, and we'll be opening an office in Lima as well.
Ah, congratulations.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, especially
Yeah,
considering in the last 18 months that we can't even travel to those places.
Right.
Right. So
that's a real testament to
our
what you're
corporate
doing.
office being here in Alpharetta, yeah, it's great because it's a technology hub, this city. It's fantastic. And so we have ability to be on video and things 24/7 if we have to without being concerned about connectivity issues.
Outages
right?
and connectivity.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah, so that's been helpful.
And how many employees do you have here in Alpharetta?
In Alpharetta, in the state of Georgia, I guess in the state of Georgia, but in Alpharetta, when we bring everybody back, because we haven't brought everybody back, we'll have 14 people in the office, and we're based in right down in the old part of downtown Alpharetta.
Right, which is a perfect place to be.
It's great because it's walking distance to. There's that whole new redevelopment of downtown and the restaurants and all
the
that. And
city
so
center, right?
we're not necessarily in the city center, but we're a 10-minute walk.
Yeah.
And so that makes life like, it's not quite live, work, play where we are, but it's super close to that. Yeah. And so it allows us to attract talent, I suppose.
I was going to say that must really be an advantage.
Yeah,
for
because
recruiting.
we're also really close to Wills Park, which is right there, right?
So you've got a trail system.
You've got a whole trail system, you've got a park, you've got restaurants.
It's
a great
well
location.
placed.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And why Alpharetta? You had said you were in Miami for a while. What led you to Alpharetta?
So we had been coming to Atlanta because we knew, oddly enough, the greater Atlanta area is a little mini gaming hub. Most people don't realize it, and I mean from like casino and lottery systems and whatnot. There are a lot of companies here that most people don't even know about. So we kind of knew the general Atlanta area, yeah?
Right.
And so as I was thinking about moving my family here, because when we were thinking about where do we put a corporate office for our future plans, and those future plans path is either an acquisition or an IPO. And a headquarters in Miami didn't make sense, even though we're a lot of our operations are in Atlanta, or in LATAM. And so we were kind of just looking around at the greater Atlanta area and literally drove north, and found this, downtown and this Avalon coming thing and this Greenway, and thought, well, let's get a house here. So I got a house here first. And then the next thing was, well, I'm going to put the office super close to me. So it's going to be in downtown Alpharetta. That's right.
Yeah. And at that time, did you know that there were hundreds of tech companies here?
We had no idea. And so after we set up shop here and got started, I wish I'd have known about Tech Alpharetta then, because I was coming from outside the state, right? And so once we got settled and started to kind of get our feet in the ground, if you will, we realized, oh my gosh, we're in a tech hub. Right? And for me, having done my first startup in Palo Alto, right, with all the magic that's in Silicon Valley, I didn't expect to find that same kind of magic here in Alpharetta. And it's starting to be here now. Right?
Yeah.
I think it's coming.
It really is. It really is. So other than the recruiting advantage, have you found other advantages to having your company headquartered here in terms of the experience level of the people you're recruiting or anything else?
One of the big assessments, I did this on a personal level first, but then we did it for the company stuff, was total cost of living. It was an amazing thing, like from when we look at gas and insurance and housing and all the things that go into cost of living, from moving from Miami to here. Now this is 3.5 years ago, right? Obviously the markets are changed a little bit now today, but it was a significant reduction.
Yeah.
It was a huge reduction. I couldn't believe it, right?
Right.
So
make your corporate dollars go a lot further.
Well, not only corporate dollars, but salaries.
Yeah.
Right? So you can pay, so the money that we put out for salaries, the people actually keep more of it because they don't have to spend so much on housing and other things, right? So, and then you add in all the amenities that are around. It's tough to beat, right?
Yeah,
Plus there's 4 proper seasons here.
Right. So, having started Park Avenue Gaming and started and worked with other companies, any advice that you would give to potential founders thinking about getting going on a tech startup? Any kind of lessons learned along the way? Yeah.
Don't ever take no for an answer. That's a big one. Because as a startup, the hardest thing to do is people telling you can't, or no, or I'm not interested, or it's almost, I don't want to say it's a sales mentality. It's not necessarily a sales job, right? But I would say that you can't quit, right? You can't give up, and don't take no. Those are, and it is not for the faint of heart, I will tell you. Being a startup founder it's a difficult road, but it's super rewarding, right? Because you get to, in one respect, you get to build something, obviously, right? But in another respect, you're giving back to the community that you're in by being a founder, because you're creating something local.
Right. You're creating jobs.
You're creating jobs, right? And that's economic value and positive things for where you are.
Absolutely. No, great advice. And those traits of not saying no go right to that recognized trait of all entrepreneurs, the persistence and the grit, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the world, people will say no, I can't, or you can't, or don't, but you know, that's why we become startup founders anyway, right? Because we have an idea or a vision about something we can do that
Right.
other people can't see or didn't see.
That's right. You're thinking outside the box, and they're thinking inside of it.
And so being here in Alpharetta with all of the concentration of tech, right, I think is actually beneficial to that, because you can bounce ideas off of so many more people than you can if you weren't in a tech hub.
Yeah, that's
Right?
a real luxury to have so many tech professionals around you. at
Yeah,
all
even though
times.
they might be different industries, there's the concentration of people in a technology or technology adjacent field or provider or whatnot, super important.
Well, Faisal, congratulations on what you've built, and thanks so much for spending time here today to talk a little bit about your journey. Really
Thanks, Karen.
appreciate that, and thanks for all your support of Tech Alpharetta.
Yeah, we'll keep growing with you.